Cool. Okay, so the tuning that we're going to be looking at today originates from me tuning my guitar as D, G, B, E, A, D. Okay, which is a lovely little tuning to play around with. And I sometimes change it up a little bit more to be B, G, B, E, A, D. Before you start tuning to that, I have a slightly more simplified version of that to stop you all breaking your strings. The idea behind that, as I've explained to some of you wonderful folks before, is because quite a lot of my approach to using different tunings is to sort of deliberately disorientate myself. So you'll probably notice that that's actually standard tuning, but literally just all mixed up. So my E's gone down to my G string, and my D's here, and my A's there. So that's kind of the purpose, the original purpose of it. But what comes out instead is a very lovely sound. And that video that I linked you all to uses D, G, B, E, A, D. However, we can get there with using sort of the same intervals and having the same sound, but with a little bit less crazy tuning. Although you're welcome to try and get into that and enjoy it, but dropping your G down to an E can sometimes be a bit problematic if you've got a low action, for example. Also, strings, when you drop down and go up and down and up, they can sort of pop quite easily. So what do? Well, we leave our E exactly where it was, and we leave our A exactly where it was, and we drop our D down to a D flat. Okay, now for those of you who can do this really quickly, hopefully you can find a little bit of patience, because actually this is a bit of a nightmare for anyone who might be a bit of a beginner. So we're really going to make sure everyone's in this tuning. So E staying the same, A staying the same, and D is going down to D flat or C sharp. If you've got a chromatic tuner, that'll do it for you, okay? However, if you're having to do it by ear, you can just fret on the 4th fret on the A string, and you can play what was the open D. I'm going to tune down to it with you. So fret on the 4th fret on the A, and then play the open D. And go down. It's not very far at all. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop our G down to a G flat or an F sharp. Okay, so again, just a little semitone. Now, a chromatic tuner will do that for you, no problem. However, we can do it by doing this. So now, presuming your D string is now a D flat, you can go from the 5th fret on the D string, or the D flat string, and now tune it that way. And then everything else stays the same. So our B is a B and our E is an E. And we've got quite a beautiful sound. Okay. So I'm going to go through that again. So we've got E, A, D flat, G flat, B, E. Okay, so it's just the D and the G that's changed. All right, folks? So just the D and just the G, and they've both gone down a semitone. To help you out again, if you want to tune that D string, you use the A string as a reference, so 4th fret, and then play the D string, which has gone down to D flat. And then if you want to tune your G to be a G flat, just go to the 5th fret on the now retuned D string. I'm going to play all my strings individually to help you tune with it. We'll go through it twice, okay? So my E sounds like this. My A sounds like this. My D, which is now a D flat, sounds like this. I'm going to play that string twice because that's the one that was probably causing you some troubles. Okay, and then my G, which is now a G flat, sounds like this. I'm going to play that again. B sounds like this. Oh. And my E sounds like this. I could, of course, be slightly out of tune, but I should be relatively constant. I gave it a go a moment ago. Okay, one more time through, a little bit quicker this time. E, A, D flat rather than D, G flat rather than G, B, and E. Cool. And I have now gone out of tune. Lovely. All right. So, as I said, the idea behind this is to sort of disorientate yourself, so everything's a little bit different. Andy, almost a hard day's night chord. Yeah, fair play. It's it's really I don't know, hard to pinpoint an emotion with it. Actually, I think that open sound, it's inspired some quite sort of hopeful tracks. It's inspired some quite dark tracks as well. It's kind of cooler, not, I think, anyway, and this is personal opinion, by no means this is how you should think too. I enjoy to just not think about the specifics of it and just enjoy the sound, because I think, for me anyway, when I get sort of too tied up in that, I start to be more predictable, I suppose, and it just tends to be a little bit more limiting. So, linking to the track that I sent you, we've got 1950s Hollywood biblical epic, Neil. Fantastic. Yeah. That's an emotion, isn't it? That's today I'm feeling a bit 1950s Hollywood biblical epic. Fantastic. So yeah, for this track that I linked you to, we've got some really specific chord sequences that I refer back to, which I'm going to teach you some of these lovely little chord shapes. But we're going to start off with getting the main theme from it, which also involves a nice little count of 3, which is a little bit something different. So it sounds like this, all right? Cool, so everything really is kind of built around that sequence and that rhythm. Okay, and I'm just going to teach you that to give us something right off the bat. So we've got 3 chords here, really. 2 of them are just 1 finger chords. I'd recommend using your second finger here. I'm going to talk as if we're in standard, and we've got the G string on the 3rd fret with our second finger, aiming mainly for the G, B, E. But if you play all the strings, that's cool. Okay, so aiming for the G, B, and E, but don't worry about what comes out. The next chord is simply moved up to the 5th fret. And this conforms, if you like, to what I was talking about last week, which again is my approach, because that's all I can really talk about, which is when I'm using alternative tunings, I'm trying to start off playing with 1 finger, maybe 2 at a push, and just letting the tuning do the work for you. So that's where that's come from. And then the 3rd and final chord from this little sequence is this, which is almost like a D shape sort of moved up. So I've got my 1st finger on the A string 2nd fret, and I've got my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret D string, and my 2nd finger on the G string 2nd fret. Okay, I'll talk you through that one again. 1st finger 2nd fret A string, 2nd finger 2nd fret G string, and my 3rd finger 3rd fret D string. You can always go over these if you want to ask. Wonderful. Okay, so we've got those 3 chords. 3rd fret G string, aiming for those higher strings, 5th fret G string, aiming for those higher strings, and then this little one down here. And what we have rhythm-wise, we're playing in a kind of a 3/4 feel, and we're counting 1, 2, 3, but we start our rhythm or our riff on the 3. So we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, our first little shape is up here on the 3rd fret. So we play that one, and then we go to this little triangle shape. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I actually used my 3rd finger there after me telling you to use the 2nd finger. It's as if I'm trying to make it difficult for you. I do apologise. So I'm going. Okay, 1, 2. I'm counting 3 twice just to make it have the right feel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, and then after counting 1, 2, 3, we then count 1 and then 2, 3. It's a nice little challenge to start off the session, isn't it? Because every
what? I'm back.
Hooray!
Hey.
There he is. I can see him. I can't hear you. No, I can't.
That was a bit weird, wasn't it? I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, can hear you now, Chris.
Can you hear me now? I mean, I'm interested. Whilst I was cut off there and just looking at the screen, going, "What? What's going on?" Could you see that, or was I gone for that a little bit?
You were gone. You were gone completely.
That's reassuring, isn't it?
You'll have to start the recording again as well, Chris.
Oh no, we seem to still be going. It seems to.
Oh, it did say it did say it stopped.
That's cool. It just told me it was going again as I came back in. So okay. Hopefully we'll be all right. Good. Hopefully, anyway. Where did you leave? When did I leave?
The intro.
The intro.
Yeah.
Did I get your 1, 2, 3, 1 like that?
That's
yeah,
great.
good. All right, good. Oh, internet connection, eh?
You better mute us all again.
I'm gonna have to, yeah. Although it'd be kind of funny to hear us all trying to count that together, slightly out of sync, wouldn't it? Right. So what have we had? We've had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now, for some of you, maybe more of your folkies, I reckon you'll be totally cool with that, and that'll be like coming out in your blood because you'll just be like, oh, that just makes perfect sense. But for the rest of us who, I don't know, grew up on everything being in 4 and stuff like that, I think it might wreck your head a little bit. So we'll take our time there. So remember, we've got these 3 shapes, all right? The first phrase just works with the 3rd fret and our little triangle shape. Remember, I'm not thinking in notes and stuff. I'm deliberately disorientated, so I'm going to have to use silly ways of describing chords, like the triangle one. And then the second little phrase is going 3, 5, and then the triangle. The rhythmic difference is this one we play on the beat 3, and then the next one we play 2, 3, 1. I've talked enough. I'm going to play it round and round and let you guys try and join in and copy, and hopefully I won't disappear into some kind of internet black hole. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. there we go. It's a lovely one to just strum around and work with. And basically, I'm just dusting in between very lightly, just with my down and up, and just fitting in when it kind of feels right, just keeping that momentum going all the time. Okay, and then just occasionally making contact with those strings. Excellent. So, as far as composing goes, I've explained to you how that's first couple of chords have come out of just playing very simplistically, because I think that's a lovely way to always start. The sort of the 3 pattern is just something to throw in there for you. Cool. So then what happens, what I did anyway, is I took that rhythmic idea and I applied it to a whole bunch of other little chord shapes, which now I'm going to teach you, and hopefully you'll go and create your own piece of music using similar chords and hopefully not sounding exactly the same, because I will sue you. I will. No, I won't sue anyone. I'd be very upset though, and that should be enough, shouldn't it? Good. Okay, so these little chord shapes, we'll start up here with the little triangle, all right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to move this up 2 frets. Nice, we're liking them so far. And then a little bit of a change in shape here, but we're going to repeat it. So try and pay attention to this bit. Your first finger on the 5th fret G string, your little finger 7th fret D string, and your 3rd finger 7th fret A string. So that is first finger 5th fret G string, little finger 7th fret D string, 3rd finger 7th fret A string. And you can move that up to 7 and 9. Ooh. Chords are a bit like fireworks, aren't they? Ooh. And then let's move it up to 10 and 12. Oh, nice. Cool. Now, what I do in this piece of music is I simply work with those chords, but then sort of take parts of them. So I'm not always playing 3 fretted notes, basically. Not just because I'm lazy, because we don't need all those notes all the time. Anyway, let's just recap those. So we started off with our little triangle shape up here on the 2nd fret on the A and G, and your 3rd finger, 3rd fret D. If you're confident with that's going to hold you in good stead for the next chord, because we move it up to the 4th and 5th fret, okay? Very cool. And then we have a little bit of a change where our first finger comes in to the 5th fret on the G. Our little finger comes in to the 7th fret on the D, and our 3rd finger comes onto the 7th fret for the A. That's going to be tricky for the more beginner guitarists. For those of you who are very comfortable with minor bar chords, you'll be used to it from that, or maybe power chords like that. But your first finger's on the G. Then moving up to 7 and 9 with that same shape. And then up to 10 and 12. Cool. Nice. Now, of course, we do also have our little chords that I was teaching you at the beginning to get us going. But we're going to use those for something else in a minute when we start to compose a little more. Okay, cool. While you guys just enjoy noodling, and what I can kind of see happening, I think is happening, unless you're all just playing like a completely different song, like working on Wonderwall or something, is that you're playing those chords and just exploring and enjoying the sound, which is awesome, because when we do these sessions, that's kind of what I imagine I would do. And that's great. So please continue to do that. And I'm just going to explain a little bit about a couple of bits that I've done before we get back to composing. Is in my tune I have this main riff. We have little variations of it. Okay, and all that is taking these little chord shapes and just stripping them down and giving them a different bass note. Okay, in the first two chords that I played, they're these little chords, but just stripped down, and I'm playing the E in the bass. Okay. Alright, there's a couple of little variations in there. And the reason, as I briefly said earlier, is because it's nice to approach chords, whether they're new chords that you've created with an open tuning, or even they're just chords that you play in normal tuning, and it is to understand that we don't have to play all the notes in the chord. Okay, it's more of a sort of a jazz way of thinking. We don't have to play three even, just two can quite often be enough. And there's a whole world in there. It's this process, it's kind of a minimalism thing. I don't know, there's probably other words for it as well, where actually, because you've got so much stuff, it's really hard to create things. But actually, when you peel it back and you take a C major chord and just take two of those notes, or you try and make a little riff or a melody out of that C major chord, really, really wonderful things can happen. And most of us, even if we just know a handful of chords, have enough notes to make something quite profoundly beautiful. So using the chords that I've showed you, I've literally created the piece that I created. So hopefully that stands you in good stead to be able to create something wonderful with that. All right then, let's get to the composing bit for what we're going to make in this session. What I would like to do is I would like to use these little half chords that we were playing with a moment ago as a little sort of phrase in between, because, well, for me that worked. It's almost like having two voices. Okay, and I propose we're going to do something similar again. I think even just really super simplistically going 3-5. I think that would be quite nice, just to keep it nice and easy. So let's have this little 3-5 phrase. And then let's work through each chord, okay? So, without too much picking, because we'll add to that in a minute, we're going to go 3-5. You could strum through if you wanted, or you could finger pick it with index, middle and ring. And then we're going to go to our first chord. Okay, and then we're going to do it again. We don't worry about timing just yet. To the next chord. And then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. And then we'll do the opposite way at the end, just for, I don't know, for a reason. We're going to go 5-3. And then we'll start again. Okay, So this is the beginnings of our little composition. So starting right at the beginning, again, before we start picking patterns and stuff in, we go 3/5, and then our first chord. Okay, then we're going to go 3/5, our second chord, which remember is exactly the same but moved up 2 frets. Then we're going to go 3/5 again. Then our third chord, which is kind of a bit of an inversion of the second, I believe, which is our first finger G string there on the 5th fret, little finger and third finger on A and D 7th fret. Same little riff again, 3/5. Then we've moved that shape up to 7 and 9. Doing lessons on Zoom, I realise how ridiculous it is that I seemingly insist on choosing guitars without fret markers on, which does make it a little bit harder for you, doesn't it? I've just sort of realised that. Sorry, I'll pick a different one. And then we're going to go back to 3/5, and then up to 11 and 12. And then to go back to the beginning, we're just going to go 5, 3. Cool. All right, so now let's have a little picking pattern, all right? Yeah, it's a little bit too gentle, isn't it? That's kind of nice, isn't it? Still a little bit too whimsical though, isn't it? Okay, let's try changing it completely. Should we go funky? Should we try funky? Is that a bit nicer? I'm trying to gauge your... something like that. Cool. I think we like that groove more. Can I gauge by your facial expressions? Some of you are helping me out. Okay, cool. All right. So let's try giving that a go then. So what we'll play on is on 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3. Is that on 3 and 4? Is that on 3 and? Cool. Okay, so we're playing on the 3 and then playing on the 1. So 3 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Last time. Nice. That actually sounds all right, doesn't it? I'm always surprised when they sound all right when we make them up on the spot. Okay, so we've sort of, well, we've come a long way, I think. We've looked at some nice little chord shapes. We started off with learning the, which was a kind of a 3/4 thing, which was nice. We were enjoying that. And then we've taken this little sequence and now we've built in a little riff within it, and that works nice, I think. Now I was obviously doing some sort of percussive stuff. I was doing that really to sort of hold down a little bit of a beat to help us have something to play to. So let's break it down into the more simplistic way of playing it, and then we'll build it up to being more complicated. If you've got something specific that you want to look at within this as well, you're welcome just to say. For example, if it's ever a particular technique or something that suddenly comes out, then say and help sort of guide it, because I'm very much writing this on the spot with you, so it's nice to change it as we go. Anyway, what we're doing is we're playing on 3 and then 1. Okay, so if you like, in its most simplistic form, we would have 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Nearly fell asleep there. 1, 2, 3, and 2. Sorry, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and cool. Okay, so that's breaking it down to be a little bit more simplistic. Now, depending on what your experience is with guitar playing, what kind of things you've played before, even how you've just thought about things, you might actually find playing 3 and 1 a little bit tricky. So if you're actually finding this hard right now, don't beat yourself up at all, even if you're sort of quite an experienced guitar player, because it can be a little strange moving beats around like that. Okay, so we'll work through it again like that again. I'll strum this time, I think. Okay, so more of a 3 and, sorry, 3. It's just having that gap. Out a little bit, hopefully hearing it played like that. Another thing that we can do is start to build in a little bit. Let's go with what I was playing earlier and build in a little bit of percussion. We won't worry straight away about this heel thing. What we can think about instead is our snare drum. Okay, so that's the engine of most of the sort of percussive stuff, which is our snare. All right, because well, it's the most recognizable, and really it can be kind of where the groove lies a bit anyway in the music that we know and love. All right, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So hopefully you're noticing that it's played on 2 and 4. Okay, so if we ignore the kick, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Cool. That might be quite tricky for some of you. Remember that the idea of these sessions are that sometimes you'll get all of it, and sometimes you might just get a tiny little bit, and the rest is for more advanced players. Don't worry about it, okay? If you're first to doing this string snapping thing, try and think about it like this, where you're turning your wrist, all right? If you're doing it like this, all right, you're going to get really knackered real quick, and also your rhythm is going to be really rubbish, okay? Because no one has ever sort of danced with their thumb like this, all right? However, they might use their arms and their wrists, all right? Wrists are really good at rhythm, hence strumming and stuff, all right? So with your string snapping, try not to do this, all right? Because the rhythm, it just won't flow, it won't groove, you'll never sort of truly be able to connect with it. Turn your wrist, okay? So to break it down again, we're going strum on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and string slap chord, okay? Let's do that first one again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and strum. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Cool. Okay, a little tricky, but it's trying to get comfortable with 2 and 4. What might be helpful, if you're quite new to that as well, is not playing any of the other stuff and just getting used to going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, quite a lot of guitar players will be quite comfortable with doing a string slap, but more often than not, I don't know, maybe that's an exaggeration, quite often you'll hear that string slap put in anywhere, all right? And that can be really distracting to the groove and feel. So it's a good opportunity to focus on putting it on the right beat. Okay, that's not some kind of dogmatic law that, you know, the snare drum must always be on 2 and 4. What really I'm trying to say is that it's a thing that you want to think about, because it can really affect the feel and rhythm. So we're going to play through again in a kind of a jammy way with our little composition that we've created. All right, I'm going to play the full sort of percussive beat. If you would like to just try and play the chords, that's great. If you want to play the riff with the chords, if you would like to play the percussion and that, so that's totally cool as well. If you would like to just sit back and play the percussion, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's totally cool with me as well. If you'd like to give a go with the heel of the hand full percussion thing that I'm doing here, you're very welcome to do that. I know I haven't talked about that yet, however we will squeeze that in at the end, because I feel that otherwise maybe we've got a little bit too complex. It's up to you basically. Take from it what you will and just enjoy playing along. Maybe you just want to play a nice little guitar solo and improvise over the top. It's up to you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Oh, and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You're right there, Mick. Okay, last time round. 2, 3, 4, 1. Nice, cool. We like that, don't we? Really, really dreamy and lovely. Great. So the percussive element of the kick drum is something that I've talked about before, and I won't get hugely into because it's a session and many sessions on its own in itself. But it's this motion of using the heel of my hand against the top of the guitar, and I'm crucially, what's helpful to say here is that I'm doing it on 1 and 3. Okay, so it's like having Ringo Starr in your band. Actually, no, that's very unfair, because even though he had simplicity, it wasn't always that conventional. So it's just having a simplistic drummer of going kick, snare on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And what's important is that you eventually learn to do things at the same time as the kick drum. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then the other strum, 3, and okay. So that's the idea behind it, but it's certainly one for another session, I think. Wonderful. Okay, so where have we gone? We've learned the tuning, which, as I said, started off as D, G, B, E, A, D, created just to sort of disorientate, but actually it makes a nice sound. We simplified it so that we didn't have to do anything crazy with our guitars, so that we had E, A, D flat or C sharp, G flat or F sharp, B, E, and we had that lovely sound. We learned the main riff from the tune that I was linking you guys to, which is called Banneret, which was this. And then I showed you some of the shapes that everything was based on, which I think you will learn. And then we created a bit of a song out of that, which we've just been playing and jamming, and we looked at using the snare drum as well. So hopefully there's been lots of cool stuff to learn, and I'll start recording it.